The shuttle's engines hummed with a low, insistent vibration that seemed to echo in Kai Solin's chest. The viewport displayed the landscape of Arion Prime in its full, untamed glory. Vast plateaus stretched toward an endless horizon, speckled with indigo vegetation that shimmered faintly in the waning light of twin suns. Above, the pale blue of the atmosphere shifted to a deep violet, where distant stars pierced through. Kai leaned against the bulkhead, arms crossed, his military jacket pristine except for the frayed patch on his shoulder. It bore the insignia of Earth's Interstellar Alliance Corps, an organization as ambitious as it was overextended. Lieutenant Solon, the pilot's voice crackled through the intercom, breaking his reverie. ETA to the cadet training grounds. 3 minutes. And just a heads up, sir, you've got some unique recruits this time. Kai sighed. Unique was code for challenging. He reviewed the roster again on his holopad, focusing on one name, Yara Veskari, a Tarian, Arion Prime's newest diplomatic partners. Her personnel file was thin, almost deliberately vague. What little it did include, a note about her psionic abilities and her brother's death in the Aurelix uprising, only deepened his unease. The shuttle landed with a jolt, stirring Kai from his thoughts. As the ramp lowered, the humid air hit him like a wave, carrying the earthy scent of alien flora. Before him stood the camp, a sprawl of modular buildings, surrounded by the wild beauty of the planet. A group of recruits gathered near the training yard, their uniforms a patchwork of species and styles. And there she was. Yara Veskari stood out, not because of her height, though she was tall by human standards, but because of the faint, ethereal glow of her bioluminescent skin. In the dimming light, it shimmered like moonlight on water, shifting subtly with her movements, her eyes a piercing silver fixed on Kai as he approached. "Cadets!" Kai barked, his voice cutting through the murmur of conversation. "Form up!" The group scrambled into a loose semblance of order, though Yara lingered at the edges, her posture more defiant than deferential. "I'm Lieutenant Kai Solon," he began, pacing in front of the line. "Your instructor. For the next 6 weeks, I own you. Your strengths, your weaknesses, they're mine to shape. But let me be clear, this is not a diplomatic tea party. I don't care where you're from or what abilities you think set you apart. Out here, survival doesn't discriminate." He stopped directly in front of Yara, who met his gaze unflinchingly. "Got something to add, cadet?" She tilted her head, her tone calm but edged with challenge. "I was just wondering if all human speeches start with such bravado." A ripple of muffled laughter spread through the group. Kai narrowed his eyes but kept his tone even. "What's your name, cadet?" "Yara Veskari." Her voice carried the lilting cadence of her native Tarian tongue, each word deliberate. "Well, Cadet Veskari, I hope your sense of humor serves you well. You'll need it." The first day of training was grueling by design. Kai pushed the recruits hard, testing their endurance with a gauntlet of physical exercises under Arion Prime's intense dual sunlight. By mid-afternoon, the group was drenched in sweat and panting for air, all except Yara, whose glowing skin pulsed faintly as though feeding on the light. When they reached the obstacle course, tensions boiled over. One of the human cadets, a burly soldier named Drake, muttered something under his breath as Yara passed him. She stopped abruptly, her silver eyes narrowing. "Care to repeat that?" she said, her voice deceptively soft. "I said," Drake growled, "you think you're better than us with your glowing tricks? This is military training, not a light show." Before Kai could intervene, Yara moved. In a blur of motion, she dodged Drake's clumsy lunge and pinned him to the ground with an efficiency that startled even Kai. Her hand hovered above his chest, fingers twitching as faint arcs of psionic energy crackled around them. "Enough!" Kai's voice rang out, freezing everyone in place. Yara released Drake and stood, her expression unreadable. Kai stepped forward, his tone sharp. "Cadet Veskari, my office now." Inside the small command module, Kai leaned against the desk, arms crossed. Yara stood before him, her glowing skin dimmed, her posture tense but composed. Do you have any idea how reckless that was? Kai snapped. You could have seriously injured him or worse. Her eyes flashed with defiance. He insulted me. I defended myself. This isn't about pride, Yara. This is about discipline. You can't just— Discipline, she interrupted, her voice rising. Is that what you call this? Pushing us until we drop? Treating us like machines? Kai opened his mouth to retort, but stopped. Her words cut deeper than he cared to admit, echoing his own doubts about the Alliance's methods. For a moment, silence hung between them, charged with unspoken tension. Finally, Yara spoke again, her voice softer. I didn't ask to be here, Lieutenant, but I came because I believe in what we're fighting for. So if you're going to treat me like everyone else, fine. Just don't expect me to apologize for being different. Kai studied her, his frustration giving way to a grudging respect. Fair enough, he said at last. But if you want to prove yourself, do it on the course, not in a fight. She nodded, her glowing skin brightening slightly, as though in acknowledgement. As Yara left, Kai stared out the viewport at the alien landscape, his thoughts a tangle of frustration, admiration, and something he couldn't quite name. Arian Prime was a world of contrasts, wild yet controlled, beautiful yet dangerous. And as he watched the horizon, where the twin suns dipped low, painting the sky in hues of violet and gold, Kai couldn't shake the feeling that this place, and this recruit, would change him in ways he couldn't yet fathom. The dawn on Arian Prime was a symphony of light and sound, an intricate display of nature's defiance against the harshness of the planet's dual suns. Indigo-leafed trees reflected a soft bioluminescence, casting a surreal glow across the training camp. Somewhere in the dense thickets, alien creatures chirped, their calls resonating like wind chimes in the breeze. Kai Solon stood at the edge of the camp's mess hall, nursing a steaming mug of Karis root brew, the local equivalent of coffee. The bitterness matched his mood. He was lost in thought, replaying the previous day's confrontation with Yara Veskari. She'd been calm and defiant, but her words had lingered in his mind far longer than they should have. Across the yard, Yara moved through a series of combat drills with an eerie fluidity. Her every motion was precise, almost elegant, and unlike anything Kai had seen among human soldiers. She was alone, her glowing skin casting faint light patterns on the ground as she twisted and lunged. She's impressive, isn't she? The voice startled Kai. He turned to see Captain Joran Hensley, a fellow instructor, leaning casually against the doorway. Hensley's sharp eyes twinkled with amusement. Impressive isn't the word I'd use, Kai replied dryly. She's stubborn, unpredictable, and has a penchant for insubordination. Sounds familiar. Hensley shot back with a grin. Reminds me of a certain lieutenant I trained back in the day. Kai ignored the jab, his attention drawn back to Yara. She's different, though. There's something about her. Hensley followed his gaze and nodded. The Tarians are an enigma, Kai. You can't just break them down and rebuild them like human recruits. They're connected to their past, their people, their world. That kind of connection doesn't snap easily. Kai frowned but said nothing. He hated when Hensley was right. The day's exercises took the recruits to the Arion Ridge, a sprawling expanse of jagged cliffs and crystalline caves. It was an unforgiving terrain meant to test endurance and teamwork. Yara's team struggled, her alien instincts clashing with human tactics. Kai observed from a distance, his sharp eyes catching every misstep, every hesitation. He saw the frustration building in Yara's expression, the way her silver eyes narrowed as her human teammates stumbled over her instructions. By midday, tempers flared. A cadet named Parker, already weary and irritable, snapped at Yara during a climb. Maybe if you stopped glowing and actually listened, we'd get somewhere. The insult hung in the air like a challenge. Yara froze, her usually composed demeanor cracking. Excuse me? Her voice was quiet but edged with danger. Kai intervened before the situation escalated. Enough! His voice cut through the tension. Team dynamics are part of the exercise, Cadet Parker. If you can't work together, you'll fail together. Understood? Parker muttered an apology, but the damage was done. Yara turned away, her glow dimming slightly as she climbed in silence. Later that evening, Kai found Yara sitting alone near the edge of the camp, her silhouette illuminated by the faint glow of distant bioluminescent plants. She was humming softly, a melody that seemed to rise and fall like waves. "That's a Tarian song, isn't it?" Kai asked as he approached. Yara glanced at him, her expression guarded. "It's a remembrance hymn. We sing it to honor those we've lost." Kai hesitated before sitting beside her. "Your brother?" Her glowing skin pulsed faintly, an instinctive reaction that betrayed her emotions. "He was a warrior. Brave, kind, foolish maybe. He believed in the Alliance, even when others didn't. He died fighting for it." Kai studied her, noting the way her shoulders tensed as she spoke. He recognized the weight she carried. It mirrored his own. "You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to." She let out a bitter laugh. "Talking doesn't change anything, does it? He's gone, and I'm here trying to live up to his shadow." For a moment, the only sound was the rustling of leaves in the wind. Then Kai spoke, his voice softer. "I lost someone too, my best friend. I was supposed to lead a mission, but I made a mistake. He didn't come back, and now I spend every day trying to make up for it." Yara turned to him, her silver eyes searching his. "Does it ever get easier?" Kai shook his head. "Not really, but you learn to live with it, and sometimes you find a reason to keep going." And the next day, the recruits returned to the obstacle course. Yara's team performed noticeably better, her leadership steadier and more focused. Parker even managed a grudging apology, though it came out awkward and stilted. During a break, Yara approached Kai, her expression thoughtful. "You're not what I expected, Lieutenant." "Is that a compliment or an insult?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "An observation," she replied, her lips twitching into a faint smile. "You push us hard, but you're not unkind, not like I thought you'd be." Kai chuckled. "Don't spread that around. I have a reputation to maintain." Her laughter, soft and musical, caught him off guard. It was the first time he'd seen her truly at ease. As the day ended, Kai watched the recruits disperse, his gaze lingering on Yara. There was something about her resilience, her ability to adapt and grow, that unsettled him. "She's going to change things," Hensley said, appearing at his side. Kai nodded, though he wasn't sure if Hensley meant Yara would change the team, or him. Under the light of Arian Prime's twin moons, Kai couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. And as much as he tried to keep his distance, he couldn't deny the growing connection between them, a connection that felt both inevitable and dangerous. Arian Prime's crystalline nights had a haunting beauty to them, but tonight, the air carried an unsettling stillness. Twin moons bathed the training camp in a silvery glow, making every shadow seem sharper, every sound more pronounced. In the depths of the alien forest that bordered the camp, something moved. Kai Solon stood outside his quarters, scanning the horizon. His instincts prickled, an intangible sense of unease curling at the edges of his thoughts. His hand rested on the sidearm at his hip, a habit more than a necessity. But the tension in his shoulders hinted that he wasn't entirely sure. The recruits were exhausted from another grueling day. The lights in the barracks dimmed, all except for one. Through the window, he could see Yara Veskari seated cross-legged on her bunk, a faint glow radiating from her skin as she focused on something in her hands. Kai's earpiece crackled to life, pulling him from his thoughts. "Lieutenant, we've got movement on the perimeter," came Hensley's voice, tight with urgency. Unidentified signatures, fast and erratic. Kai straightened, his grip instinctively tightening on his weapon. "How many?" "Too many for a standard patrol. Might be wildlife, but—" Hensley hesitated, the pause heavy with implication. Kai didn't need him to finish. On Arian Prime, wildlife often meant something with too many teeth, or too much cunning. "I'm on it," Kai replied, heading toward the barracks. Inside, Kai flicked the lights on, startling the recruits awake. Groans and protests filled the room, but his sharp tone cut through them. "Up and armed! Now we've got a situation." Yara was already on her feet, her bioluminescence flickering faintly as she grabbed her gear. "What kind of situation?" "Unknown hostiles near the perimeter," Kai replied. "Could be animals. Could be something worse. Either way, we're not taking chances." The recruits scrambled into formation, their exhaustion replaced by a mix of fear and adrenaline. Kai led them toward the outer boundary of the camp, where Captain Hensley and his team were already scanning the tree line with advanced sensors. "Readings are all over the place," Hensley muttered, pointing to a handheld scanner. "Heat signatures, but they're shifting, like they're cloaked or phasing in and out." Kai's jaw tightened. Cloaking tech was advanced, far beyond what the wildlife of Aryan Prime should be capable of. He exchanged a glance with Yara, who seemed to sense his unease. "Lieutenant," she said quietly, "if this is what I think it is, we're going to need more than standard protocols." Kai raised an eyebrow. "What do you think it is?" She hesitated, her glowing skin dimming slightly. Terrian hunters use similar tactics: cloaking, flanking maneuvers. They're designed to confuse and overwhelm. "Great," muttered Parker from the back of the group. "So we're being hunted?" "Quiet," Kai snapped, but his expression betrayed his concern. The first attack came without warning. A low, guttural growl erupted from the tree line, followed by a blur of motion. A massive creature, four-legged, with sleek, black skin that absorbed the moonlight, lunged at one of the perimeter guards. The soldier's scream was cut short as the creature dragged him into the shadows. "Hold your ground!" Kai shouted, raising his weapon and firing. The pulse rounds lit up the night, striking the creature and forcing it to retreat with a deafening roar. Chaos erupted as more creatures emerged, their movements fast and unpredictable. The recruits scattered, their inexperience showing as they fired wildly into the dark. "Form up!" Kai bellowed, his voice cutting through the panic. "Cover each other and aim for center mass." Yara moved with purpose, her psionic abilities flaring to life. With a flick of her wrist, she sent a creature hurtling backward, its body slamming into a tree with a sickening crack. "Behind you!" she shouted, her voice laced with urgency. Kai spun just in time to see another creature lunging at him. He fired, the pulse round striking its chest, but the impact only slowed it down. Before it could reach him, Yara was there, her glowing hands crackling with energy. She struck the creature, the psionic force ripping through it like a shockwave. Kai stared at her, momentarily stunned. "Remind me not to get on your bad side." She smirked, her glow brightening slightly. "I'll keep that in mind." As the skirmish dragged on, the creatures seemed to retreat, their cloaking failing under the strain of their injuries. The recruits regrouped, their breathing heavy and their expressions shaken. "What were those things?" Parker asked, his voice trembling. "Predators," Yara said, her tone grim, "but not natural ones. Something, or someone, enhanced them." Kai's eyes narrowed. "You think this was deliberate?" Yara nodded. "They were testing us. Whoever sent them wanted to see how we'd respond." The weight of her words settled over the group like a shroud. Kai exchanged a glance with Hensley, who looked equally troubled. "This isn't just training anymore," Hensley said. "We're being watched." Back at the camp, Kai debriefed the recruits, his tone somber but firm. "Tonight, you proved you could hold your own. But this is far from over. Stay alert, stay prepared, and trust your team. That's how we survive." As the recruits dispersed, Yara lingered, her silver eyes meeting Kai's. "You handled yourself well out there," he said, his voice softer. "So did you," she replied. "But this is bigger than any of us, isn't it?" Kai nodded, his expression serious. "It feels like the start of something, and I don't like where it's heading." For a moment, neither of them spoke, the unspoken tension between them heavy, but not unwelcome. "Thank you," Yara said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "For what?" "For not treating me like an outsider, for trusting me." Kai studied her, the faint glow of her skin reflecting in his eyes. "You've earned it." As Yara walked away, her glow fading into the night, Kai stood alone, his thoughts a storm of uncertainty. The attack had shaken him, but it wasn't the creatures or their mysterious origins that lingered in his mind. It was the way Yara had fought beside him, the way her strength and determination felt both alien and achingly familiar. Aryan Prime's shadows were growing, and with them, the dangers lurking within. But for the first time in years, Kai felt a flicker of something else: hope. The sky above Aryan Prime was an endless tapestry of indigo clouds streaked with silver. The aftermath of the previous night's attack had left the camp uneasy, its once determined atmosphere now tinged with paranoia. The recruits moved about with more vigilance, their conversations muted, their movements sharper. The idea of being watched lingered like a shadow over their every action. Yara Veskari stood near the armory, meticulously inspecting her weapon. Her silvery skin reflected the ambient light, but her usual glow was dimmed, a subtle indicator of her mood. She felt the weight of suspicion, not only toward their unseen enemy, but toward herself. Yara's mind churned with doubts, her people's history with humans amplifying the tension. "Kai told me I'd find you here." Yara looked up to see Parker approaching, his expression tentative. The human cadet had been a thorn in her side since the training began, but tonight his demeanor seemed softer. "Parker," she said flatly, returning to her work. He hesitated before speaking. "I wanted to say, thanks for saving my life out there. You didn't have to." Her hands paused over the weapon's sleek surface. "I didn't do it for you," she replied, her voice steady. Parker shifted uncomfortably, rubbing the back of his neck. "Right. Well, thanks anyway." Yara gave him a sidelong glance, a faint smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "You're welcome, Parker." Meanwhile, Kai Solon stood in the command center with Captain Hensley, poring over data from the night before. The room buzzed with activity as technicians analyzed heat signatures, movement patterns, and whatever else they could glean from the mysterious attackers. "They were testing us," Hensley said, tapping a finger on the holographic map. "Every move was calculated to probe our defenses." Kai nodded, his jaw tight. "And whoever sent them knows how to exploit weaknesses. If they strike again, it'll be harder, faster." Hensley leaned back, his eyes narrowing. "I don't like it, and I don't like how much those creatures resembled Tarian tactics." Kai shot him a sharp look. "Yara's not involved in this." "I didn't say she was," Hensley replied. "But you have to admit it's suspicious. The timing, the methods, it lines up too well." Kai's expression hardened. "She's one of us, Duran. She's earned that. Don't forget it." Hensley raised his hands in mock surrender. All right, just keep your eyes open." That afternoon, Kai decided to shift the focus of the training. He gathered the recruits in an open field bordered by Aryan Prime's towering crystal trees, their trunks shimmering faintly in the sunlight. "We're moving into advanced drills," he announced. "It's time to work on coordination under stress. Yara, you're leading today." The recruits exchanged glances, some wary, others curious. Yara stepped forward, her chin high and her expression neutral. "Understood." The drill was a simulated raid. Yara's team was tasked with infiltrating a mock enemy camp while evading detection from drones. It was a challenging exercise, designed to push the recruits to their limits. "Stay low, stay quiet," Yara instructed as they moved through the terrain. Her voice was calm but firm, and her glowing skin dimmed as she activated her species' natural camouflage. Parker stumbled over a root, cursing under his breath. Yara turned sharply, motioning for silence. "One more noise like that, and you'll give us away," she whispered. "Easy for you to say," Parker muttered. You're basically a living shadow." Yara raised an eyebrow. "And you're a clumsy human. Try harder." The recruits snickered quietly, the tension breaking for a moment. Even Parker managed a grudging smirk. As they neared the target, a drone whirred overhead. Yara froze, signaling for the team to drop. They pressed themselves into the ground, their breaths shallow as the drone hovered, scanning the area. When it finally moved on, Yara exhaled softly. "Clear. Let's move." The raid was a success, and by the end of the exercise, even Parker grudgingly admitted that Yara's leadership had made the difference. So that evening, the recruits gathered around a makeshift fire pit. The glow of the flames mixed with the ambient light from the surrounding trees, creating a surreal atmosphere. Stories and laughter filled the air, the day's successes easing the lingering tension. Yara sat a little apart from the group, her bioluminescence casting a faint halo around her. Kai approached, holding 2 cups of Karis brew. "You're not much of a team player, are you?" he said, handing her a cup. "I'm here, aren't I?" she replied, taking a sip. The brew's bitterness made her wince, but she didn't complain. Kai sat beside her, his gaze on the fire. "You did well today. Better than well, actually." Yara's lips quirked into a small smile. "Was that a compliment, Lieutenant?" "Don't get used to it," he said with a smirk. For a moment, they sat in companionable silence. Then Yara spoke, her voice quieter. "Do you trust me?" Kai turned to her, surprised by the question. "Of course I do." "Even with everything happening? With the suspicion, the tension, my people's history?" Kai met her gaze, his expression serious. "Trust isn't about ignoring the past. It's about seeing who someone is now. And right now, I see a soldier who's proven herself over and over." Her glow brightened slightly, a subtle expression of gratitude. "Thank you, Kai." Later that night, as the camp settled into uneasy sleep, a faint sound echoed through the trees. Yara, lying awake in her bunk, sat up, her silver eyes scanning the shadows. Something was out there. Grabbing her weapon, she slipped silently into the night, her movements fluid and deliberate. The air was cool against her skin, and the bioluminescent flora cast an eerie glow. She wasn't alone for long. Kai appeared at her side, his expression a mix of curiosity and concern. "Couldn't sleep either?" She shook her head. "There's something out there. I can feel it." Together, they moved deeper into the forest, their steps synchronized. The tension was palpable, the silence oppressive. When the attack came, it was swift and brutal. Cloaked figures emerged from the shadows, their movements precise and deadly. Kai and Yara fought back, their training and instincts kicking in. As they battled side by side, a realization struck Kai. Whatever this enemy was, it wasn't just testing them, it was targeting them. And it wasn't going to stop until it got what it wanted. The camp was a hive of uneasy activity. Reports from Kai and Yara's encounter with the cloaked attackers spread like wildfire among the recruits, sparking fear and speculation. The enemy was no longer a distant threat, but a shadow that loomed close, its intentions unknown. Kai paced the command center, his fists clenched behind his back. The holographic map before him displayed the forest perimeter in pulsing red, a visual reminder of their vulnerability. "We can't keep waiting for them to make the next move," he said, his voice taut with frustration. Captain Hensley nodded grimly. "Agreed. We need intel. A counter-offensive without knowing what we're up against is suicide." Yara stood at the edge of the room, her posture rigid, her glowing eyes fixed on the map. "I might know where to start," she said quietly. All eyes turned to her. "There's an old Terrian stronghold deep in the forest," she continued. "It was abandoned long before humans arrived on Arian Prime, but if these attackers are using Terrian tactics, they might be operating from there." Hensley's expression darkened. "And you didn't think to mention this before?" Yara's jaw tightened, her glow dimming slightly. "Because I didn't think it was relevant. My people left this planet generations ago. Or so you say, Hensley muttered. That's enough, Kai snapped, stepping between them. He looked at Yara, his voice softening. Can you lead us there? She hesitated, her silver eyes meeting his. Yes, but it's dangerous. The forest is alive in ways you can't imagine. Kai gave a grim smile. Good thing we've got you then. Then the team set out at dawn, their weapons and supplies secured. Yara led the way, her movements purposeful yet cautious. The forest seemed to close in around them, its towering crystalline trees casting fractured light across the undergrowth. Strange sounds echoed through the air, chirps, growls, and an occasional low hum that vibrated through the ground. Kai walked beside Yara, his gaze flicking between the terrain and her face. She was tense, her glow faint, but her determination was evident. Talk to me, he said, keeping his voice low. She glanced at him, her expression guarded. About what? Anything. You've been quiet since we left. Yara hesitated, then sighed. This place, it brings back memories, stories my mother told me about our people's exodus. How we left behind everything familiar because staying meant annihilation. Kai frowned. And now you're leading humans back into what your people escaped. Her lips twitched in a wry smile. Funny how fate works, isn't it? The trek grew more treacherous as they delved deeper. Vines with faintly glowing tendrils seemed to move of their own accord, brushing against the soldiers like curious fingers. Parker yelped as one wrapped around his ankle, only to realize it was harmless. Could we not die by killer plants, please? He grumbled, earning a few chuckles. Relax, Yara said, her tone tinged with amusement. They're just curious. As long as you don't attack them, they won't attack you. Kai raised an eyebrow. Comforting. By mid-afternoon, the group reached a natural clearing. In the distance, the jagged silhouette of the Tarian stronghold loomed, its dark spires piercing the canopy. The structure was ancient, its surfaces weathered but still formidable. Yara stopped, her expression unreadable. There it is. The recruits stared, a mix of awe and apprehension on their faces. Looks like something out of a nightmare, Parker muttered. Stay focused, Kai ordered. Yara, any idea what we're walking into? She shook her head. If they've repurposed the stronghold, it could be anything. Tarian architecture is designed to confuse intruders. Traps, hidden passageways, dead ends. Be careful. And the stronghold's entrance was guarded by a massive gate, its surface etched with intricate patterns that glowed faintly as Yara approached. She placed her hand on the gate, her bioluminescence flaring briefly. The gate groaned and slid open, revealing a dimly lit corridor. How'd you do that? Parker asked, his voice tinged with suspicion. It's Tarian tech, Yara replied. It responds to my genetic signature. As they moved inside, the air grew colder, the walls pulsing with a faint rhythmic light. The corridor widened into a cavernous hall, its ceiling lost in shadows. Strange devices lined the walls, their purposes unknown. This place gives me the creeps, one of the recruits muttered. You're not alone, Kai said, scanning the area. Stay sharp. The ambush came without warning. Cloaked figures emerged from the shadows, their movements swift and coordinated. Kai shouted orders, and the recruits sprang into action, their training taking over. Yara fought with a fluid grace, her psionic abilities flaring as she deflected attacks and struck back with precision. Kai stayed close to her, their movements synchronized as they covered each other. Amid the chaos, one of the attackers broke through the line, heading straight for Parker. Yara reacted instinctively, a burst of energy slamming into the attacker and sending them sprawling. You all right? She asked, helping Parker to his feet. He nodded, his face pale. Yeah, thanks. As the last of the attackers fell, the team regrouped, their breaths heavy, their expressions grim. Everyone okay? Kai asked, his eyes scanning the group, Nods and murmurs of affirmation followed, though the recruits were visibly shaken. "What the hell were those things?" Parker asked. Yara knelt beside one of the fallen attackers, pulling back their hood to reveal an unfamiliar angular face with sharp features and glowing eyes. "They're hybrids," she said, her voice laced with dread. "Part Terrian, part something else." Kai frowned. "Someone's been experimenting." Yara's expression darkened. "And they're using my people's legacy to do it." As the group prepared to move deeper into the stronghold, Kai pulled Yara aside. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low. She met his gaze, her silver eyes reflecting the faint light. "Number, but I'll manage." Kai rested a hand on her shoulder, his touch grounding. "We'll get through this. Together." For a moment, she allowed herself to lean into his presence, drawing strength from his unwavering confidence. "Thank you," she said softly. Kai gave a small, reassuring smile. "Always." As they stepped back into the fray, the shadows of the stronghold seemed to grow darker, the air heavier with the weight of the unknown. But amidst the fear and uncertainty, a fragile thread of trust bound them together, a thread they would need to survive what lay ahead. The depths of the Terrian stronghold seemed alive, each corridor winding deeper into a labyrinth that defied logic. The air grew colder, the glow from the walls dimming as if the stronghold itself sought to disorient its intruders. For Kai, Yara, and the team, every step was a gamble, each shadow a potential threat. Yara led the way, her silver eyes flicking between the dim light and the readings on a small device in her hand. The structure hummed faintly around them, a sound just at the edge of perception, like the breath of a slumbering giant. "This place, it doesn't feel right," Parker muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's not meant to," Yara replied without looking back. Terrian strongholds were designed to unnerve invaders, to make them question their senses. "Well, it's working," Parker grumbled. Kai shot him a look. "Focus. Complaining won't get us out of here alive." Yara slowed, holding up a hand. The team stopped, their breaths caught in their throats. Ahead, the corridor opened into a vast chamber, its walls covered in pulsing organic-like veins. In the center stood a massive console, its surface covered in glowing runes. "This is it," Yara said, her voice low. The chamber's oppressive atmosphere seemed to press down on them as Yara approached the console. She placed her hands on the surface, her bioluminescence flaring as she interfaced with the ancient technology. The runes shifted and pulsed, responding to her touch. Kai stood nearby, his weapon at the ready. "What are you looking for?" "Anything that tells us who's behind this," Yara replied. Her voice was steady, but Kai could sense the tension in her shoulders. The console emitted a low hum, and a holographic display flickered to life, projecting a series of images and symbols into the air. Yara's eyes widened as she processed the information. "They're using this place as a laboratory," she said, her voice tinged with anger. "They're experimenting on hybrids, merging Terrian DNA with something else." Kai's jaw tightened. "Why? What's the endgame?" Before Yara could respond, the chamber shook violently, the walls emitting a deafening screech. The veins along the walls pulsed erratically, their glow intensifying. "They know we're here," Yara said, her voice sharp. "We need to move. Now." The team scrambled out of the chamber, the stronghold's corridors coming alive with danger. Walls shifted, closing off paths and opening new ones, creating a deadly maze. Drones emerged from hidden alcoves, their sleek forms glowing with hostile intent. Kai took point, his weapon barking as he shot down a drone that veered too close. "Stay together. Don't lose sight of each other." Yara's energy flared as she used her psionics to deflect incoming projectiles and disable drones. The effort took its toll, her glow dimming as sweat beaded on her brow. "Keep going," she shouted, her voice fierce. "We're almost there." Behind them, Parker stumbled, a drone swooping down toward him. Yara turned, her hand outstretched as a surge of energy blasted the drone into pieces. "Parker, move!" she snapped. The cadet nodded, his face pale as he scrambled to keep up. And they reached another chamber, this one smaller and more contained. The walls glowed faintly, and in the center stood a circular platform. "This is a transport node," Yara explained, her breaths labored. "It'll take us to the central control room." Kai looked at her, concern etched into his features. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. "Just get everyone on the platform." As the team gathered, Yara activated the node, the platform humming to life. A bright light enveloped them, and the world seemed to dissolve for a moment before reforming into the control room. The central control room was unlike anything they'd seen before. It was vast, its ceiling lost in darkness, with a massive central pillar pulsating with energy. Around the room, dozens of consoles glowed with alien symbols, their purpose a mystery. Yara approached the central pillar, her expression grim. This is it. This is the heart of the operation. As she began interfacing with the pillar, the room erupted with activity. More cloaked figures emerged, their weapons raised. The team formed a defensive circle, their weapons blazing. "Hold them off!" Kai shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. Yara worked furiously, her glow brightening as she poured her energy into the pillar. The symbol shifted, and a holographic figure appeared. A tall, imposing being with angular features and piercing eyes. "Greetings, intruders," the figure said, its voice cold and emotionless. "You've made it farther than expected, but this is where your journey ends." Yara's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" "I am Vexen Ral, the architect of this project, and you, my dear, are the key to its success." Kai's eyes darted to Yara. What is he talking about? Before Yara could respond, the pillar emitted a burst of energy, sending her flying backward. She hit the ground hard, her glow flickering. "Yara!" Kai shouted, rushing to her side. She groaned, her eyes fluttering open. "I'm fine. Just stop him." Kai stood, his weapon aimed at the pillar. "Not on my watch." In the battle intensified, the team fighting with everything they had. Yara struggled to her feet, her determination unwavering despite her injuries. She rejoined the fight, her psionics flaring as she targeted the pillar. "We need to destroy it," she shouted. "It's powering everything." Kai nodded, rallying the team. "Focus fire on the pillar. Take it down." As they concentrated their efforts, the pillar began to crack, its glow dimming. Vexen's holographic form flickered, his expression shifting to one of anger. "You think you can stop me?" he sneered. "You are but insects before a titan." With a final surge of energy, Yara unleashed a devastating blast, shattering the pillar. The room shook violently, the walls beginning to collapse. "Time to go!" Kai shouted, grabbing Yara's hand. The team raced out of the room as the stronghold crumbled around them. The ground shook beneath their feet, and the air was filled with the deafening roar of destruction. And they emerged into the forest, gasping for air as the stronghold collapsed behind them. For a moment silence reigned, broken only by their ragged breaths. Kai turned to Yara, his expression a mix of relief and concern. "Are you okay?" She nodded, though her glow was faint. "I'll live." Parker approached, his voice uncharacteristically serious. "That was insane. But we did it." Kai smiled faintly. "Yeah, we did." As the team regrouped, the weight of what they'd accomplished and what they'd survived settled over them. But amidst the exhaustion, a fragile sense of hope emerged. They had faced the abyss and come out alive, but the war was far from over. The aftermath of the stronghold's destruction left the team scattered and weary. Debris rained from the sky, glowing embers painting the Terrian forest in eerie hues. Yara and Kai stood on the ridge overlooking the smoldering ruin, their breaths visible in the cold air. The battle was over, but the war inside them lingered. Yara's glow had dimmed, her strength sapped by the final psionic blast. Her silver eyes flickered, reflecting the devastation below. Kai stood close, his presence grounding her. She could feel the tension radiating off him, the worry he hadn't voiced since they'd escaped. "Kai," she said softly, breaking the silence. He turned, his face a mix of relief and exhaustion. "What is it?" "Did we do the right thing?" Her voice was fragile, a whisper carried by the wind. Destroying that place, it stopped them, but for how long? Vexen was just one piece of the machine. Kai hesitated, then placed a hand on her shoulder. "We stopped something terrible today, Yara. You stopped it, and that means something." The team regrouped at their temporary camp, a clearing ringed by towering trees. Parker was tending to minor injuries, his earlier bravado replaced by quiet determination. Reed and the others sat in a loose circle, their faces somber. As Yara and Kai approached, all eyes turned to them. "Is it really over?" Reed asked, his voice laced with doubt. Yara nodded, though the weight of her decision lingered. "For now, yes. But we can't let our guard down. The Tarian agenda isn't limited to one stronghold." Parker broke the heavy atmosphere with a wry smile. "Well, I vote we take a break before we save the galaxy again. My back's killing me." A ripple of subdued laughter followed, a small release of tension. Even Yara smiled faintly, her gaze softening as she looked around the group. Kai stood, his voice steady. "We've been through hell together, but we made it out. Rest tonight. Tomorrow, we decide our next move." Later that night, Kai found Yara perched on a fallen log at the edge of the camp. The stars above glittered like scattered diamonds, their light filtering through the branches. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, sitting beside her. She shook her head. "Too much on my mind." For a moment, they sat in silence, the forest alive with the sounds of distant creatures. "You've changed," Kai said finally, his voice gentle. Yara glanced at him, her silver eyes narrowing slightly. "What do you mean? When we first met, you were—" He paused, searching for the right words. "You were distant, guarded, like you didn't trust anyone." Her lips quirked in a wry smile. "And now? Now you're still stubborn and infuriating." His teasing tone earned a soft laugh from her. "But you've let people in. You've let me in." Yara's expression softened, a vulnerability flashing across her face. "I had to. You taught me that being strong doesn't mean being alone." Kai reached out, his hand brushing against hers. She didn't pull away. "I never thought I'd say this," Yara murmured, her voice barely audible. "But I'm glad you were assigned to me." Kai smirked. "I knew you'd come around eventually." She rolled her eyes, but the gesture lacked its usual sharpness. "Don't let it go to your head." As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink, the team prepared to leave. Their next destination was uncertain, but their purpose was clear: to dismantle the remnants of the Tarian agenda and protect what they could. Before they departed, Yara and Kai shared a private moment. "You know," Kai said, adjusting his gear, "you're not just a soldier anymore. You're a leader. They look up to you." Yara looked at the group, her expression unreadable. "It's strange. I never wanted this, but now that it's here, I can't walk away." "Good," Kai said with a grin, "because you're stuck with me." She raised an eyebrow, her lips curving into a smirk. "Is that so?" "Absolutely." He held out his hand. "Partners, right?" She hesitated for only a moment before taking his hand. "Partners." As the group disappeared into the forest, the ruins of the stronghold smoldered behind them, a stark reminder of the cost of their fight. But the stars above shone brightly, a promise of endless possibilities. And as Yara and Kai walked side by side, their bond forged in fire and tempered by trust, The future didn't seem so daunting. Together, they would face whatever came next. For the first time, the galaxy didn't feel so vast, or so lonely.